Katy Perry versus Kylie Minogue. Within the last few weeks, two pop icons released new albums. Katy Perry released 143 on the 20th of September. That's 2024 if you're watching this sometime down the track. And Kylie Minogue released Tension 2 on the 18th of October 2024. While Kylie has obviously been around for longer than Katy, these are both established pop stars with a strong fan base. Katy's album debuted and peaked here in Australia at number 2 on the charts, but it fell away very quickly. Kylie debuted at number 1 just last Saturday here in Australia. Both artists have a strong enough fan base for their albums to reach a high position on the charts for the first week or so. But just as Katy's album fell away very quickly, I suspect that Kylie's album will also fall away very quickly from this position and probably from the charts entirely. I may be wrong about that. To me, the two albums seem to fall roughly into the same genre. Wikipedia assigns Katy's album to pop, dance pop, Europop, while it assigns Kylie's album to dance pop, electronic. Do these genres mean much? I think they're about as close in genres as any two albums by any two different artists can be. Katy's album received some of the worst reviews I have ever read of any album. She was heavily criticised for using Dr. Luke as one of her producers. He has a reputation for treating the female artists that he works with very badly. Although many of the reviewers would probably deny this, I suspect this affected their opinions of the album. Should it? I'll leave that question with you. According to Wikipedia, at Metacritic, which assigns a weighted mean rating out of 100 to reviews from mainstream critics, Katy's album received an average score of 37 out of 100 based on 18 reviews, indicating generally unfavourable reviews. It marked the lowest rated album of Perry's career and the lowest rated album of the 2020s on that website. The review in The Guardian was kind enough to say that it was some way short of a total catastrophe. The reviewer gave it 2 stars. AllMusic gave it 1.5 stars, Rolling Stone 1.5, The Daily Telegraph 1, and so on. Some reviewers remarked that the content and quality was on a par with AI-generated music, and they wondered if AI had in fact been involved in its production. Kylie's album received much better reviews, which is something of an understatement, I think. Again, according to Wikipedia, Metacritic gave the album 77 out of 100 based on 10 reviews, indicating generally favourable reviews. That's 77 for Kylie compared to 37 for Katy. During its release week, Rolling Stone UK ranked the album as one of the best, whereas The Times listed it as one of the best albums of 2024. I've listened to both albums. Is Kylie Minogue's album really worth more than twice the score of Katy Perry's album? Seriously? I encourage you to listen to them side by side. Personally, I wasn't impressed by either album. I'm not a Kylie fan. I don't mind some of Katy's early songs, which have become classics really. I don't know either artist well enough to be able to judge where these albums sit in relation to their whole body of work. I did wonder, though, if you heard a track from Kylie's album, whether you'd know what album to assign it to, if you weren't a die-hard fan at least. When I listened to Kylie's album, the word that came most strongly to mind was ephemeral, literally meaning lasting one day only, but more generally lasting for a very short time. I asked myself, will anyone be listening to this album in 1 month, 2 months from now? Will anyone remember any of these tracks? More than that, though, as each track ended, it just kind of slipped away. I couldn't have hummed a note from it. I couldn't remember anything about it. The best tracks on the album for me were 3 of the 4 tracks with featured artists. Actually, I think this is pretty unusual for an album. On these 3 tracks, Kylie wasn't the lead artist. They were The Blessed Madonna, Orville Peck, and Sia. The track by Orville Peck was my favourite of these by far. I think part of the reason for this was that these tracks broke what was, for me, the rather monotonous vocals of Kylie. I did find myself wondering whether the ephemeral nature of most of these songs was actually intentional. Was this the effect they were going for? Perhaps the biggest failing of Katy's album is that I have a sense she was going for something more substantial here, something lasting. Having listened to it and having heard Katy talk about it, I think she wanted to add something substantial to her legacy with this album. Based on the reception of the album by both fans and reviewers, it seems that she's failed at this. But I really can't believe that by any objective measure, Kylie's album is worth, on average, about 4 stars, while Katy's is worth, on average, about 1.5 stars. There's no way that such a gap is justified. If I were to rate them, they'd probably both fall in the range of 2 to 3 stars. Kylie might just edge out Katy, but that would largely be on the basis of the tracks on which she is basically the feature artist rather than the lead artist. Katy may just fall behind Kylie because her aim was, I would suggest, somewhat higher than Kylie's. She intended to produce something of lasting value, and in that she probably failed. Kylie, on the other hand, wanted to produce something ephemeral, and in that she probably succeeded. I'll conclude this video by saying that I have little faith in paid reviewers of music. This includes those who review in various publications, but also many of those who make money from reviews on YouTube and other media. I suspect that reviews are as much about getting clicks, readers, viewers, as they are about commenting honestly and critically on the work. I also suspect that there's a kind of contagion, collusion even, in reviews. A bad review by one writer influences the review of the next. The same goes for a good review. Then, every so often, an outlier will appear, probably also to garner attention. And I can't help wondering also how much Katy's association with Dr. Luke affected the reviews of her album. Again I ask, is this justified?